There were no points on the line. That had more to do with how much urgency there seemed to be in the racing than any improvement or any changes in the car itself.
It's a physically, mentally taxing race, and that's why it's one of the crown jewels of our sport.
Everybody's going to have different opinions about who they put in, and they only put in, 3 each year or whatever it is, so can't put everybody in each year.
Welcome on to the Backstretch. I am News 5's Heather Williams, and what a great race at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. I said last week, I think on the podcast, I know I said it on some of the radio appearances I make throughout the week, I did not have high expectations for this race. I did not think that another short track race was going to be good. I mean, the data kind of pointed to the fact that this was going to probably be another snooze fest with Kyle Larson or Joey Logano or Christopher Bell or whomever was running well, just checking out and dominating the day. But that is certainly not what we got. From the time the green flag dropped on the open, all the way through the end of the All-Star race, you had three wide racing, you had battles for the lead, battles throughout the pack, people passing, people going from the back, coming forward, Kyle Larson starting in the back, making his way forward, leading laps at this race. Everything was almost perfection as far as an all-star race goes, as far as a short track race goes. I probably could have done without the promoter's caution in the way that they did it. Like, I like the fact that they added some drama, but Michael Walter being up there in Hammond for several laps and everybody knowing that it was coming within a couple of laps certainly kind of took away from it a little bit. I think if it had just been there's a caution, and you didn't know when or why, there wasn't this big dramatic cheese fest going on around whether or not to throw the caution flag. I think that would have been great because it did add some drama and add some things to the All-Star race. So that was really exciting. So I thought it was a great race. I thought it was amazing. Second thing of the week was the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Big news this week. They announced this year's class of 2026 this coming year. It's going to be Kurt Busch, Harry Gant, Ray Mears, and the specialty award going to Humpy Wheeler for his contributions to NASCAR. I think it's a great class. It's pretty much who I would have voted for if I had a vote. So I guess that means I'm on the right track. I mean, I think Kurt Busch, and you can talk about what happened to him off the track, but I think as far as on the track contributions, there are few people. Well, there was really nobody else in this year's nominees that accomplished what Kurt Busch accomplished. He had way more wins than anyone else. He was the only Cup champion that was up. You can debate if what happened, some of the crazy things that he was involved in off the track deteriorated from his overall contributions to NASCAR, but it's really hard to dispute that every team that Kurt Busch ran for was better because Kurt Busch ran for them. Martin Truex Jr. probably doesn't win a championship at Furniture Row Racing if Kurt Busch is not there first. 2311 doesn't probably become what it is now if Kurt Busch doesn't come over and be a part of it. So I think it's well deserved. I have been stumping forever for Harry Gant. If this is a true, and I think this class shows us, if this is a true NASCAR Hall of Fame, and we're looking at not just the drivers in the Cup Series, but across all series, what Harry Gant accomplished in what is now Xfinity Series, but Busch Grand National Series, is not rivaled by many. I mean, to win 4 straight races, to own the month of September, to do the things that Harry Gant did, he absolutely should have been in the Hall of Fame. And I'm pretty excited that he is finally there. Ray Hendrick's accomplishments in the modified series speak for themselves. Nobody could even compare to him when it comes to, he's Mr. Modified, right? So really, really, and then Humpy, of course, everything that he did for promoting at Charlotte. And then the other tracks picked up on, he's a legend. So really happy with this Hall of Fame class. We will talk about that with Chris. We will also talk about the Coke 600 and exciting things going on at Richard Childress Racing with our guest, which is Austin Dillon. So let's get rolling. Joining us now is our crew chief, Chris Carrier, who also happens to be the crew chief of the number 75 Food Country Truck in the Craftsman Truck Series. Chris, I want to start with the NASCAR Hall of Fame. We added 3 new members this week. Kurt Busch, who obviously has a huge history here at the Bristol Motor Speedway, 6 wins at Bristol. We added in the Legends category Ray Hendrick, Mr. Modified from Northern Virginia. And the one that I think you're probably the most excited to talk about has a huge history here in Southwest Virginia and Bristol, Virginia specifically, and that is Harry Gant. Drove for a long time for Ed Whitaker's race team, which you're very familiar with. So talk about this class and specifically Ed, because, I mean, specifically Harry, because I feel like that's a guy I felt like he should have been in the Hall of Fame for a long time.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I have I guess, a personal, uh, personal feeling relationship with Harry. A working relationship. He drove for Ed Whitaker from 1983 up through, I think, like 93 or 4, and had a great career there. He was just a great mix for Ed. I think 1983. I said 1983. It's actually 1987 was the year he started driving for Ed. Won 3 races that year. Won a couple of seasons. I think he won 5 in 2 different seasons. Won 2 or 3 about every year at least. Had a couple of phenomenal years. Harry was just a great mix in Ed's car. Everything kind of went well. He was kind of low key. We were Ed's team. We were low key, but he knew we wanted to win and he wanted to win. So it worked out very well. I just feel like you said, I echo, I think he should have been in a long time ago, but that's okay. Everybody's going to have different opinions about who they put in, and they only put in, 3 each year or whatever it is. So can't put everybody in each year. I think it's kind of cool that along with Harry they put in Ray Hendrick, which was a guy that Harry raced against quite a bit in his late model sportsman career, time of his career in the 70s and 80s. Ray Hendrick was just a much of a man of a driver, a guy that drove modifieds. He drove late model sportsman. And I was thinking about this last night, that a lot of people think of him as just a short track driver, and that's really not the truth, because he drove some speedway races, late model sportsman speedway races, against, at that time were called Grand National drivers, Cup drivers, some of the best talents, and held his own and won a couple of races and ran up front against those guys at Daytona, Charlotte, places like that. So his talent went beyond just short tracks. I mean, and he was just a guy that, drove for a lot of years. He's from Richmond, and man, had a lot of wins on tough, rock 'em, sock 'em, knock 'em short track races around the Virginia area and others. And then a guy like Kurt Busch, who was more of a, quote, modern era driver, probably much different personality than Harry or Ray Hendrick, but a guy that had tremendous talent. Feel like his career got cut short. Head injury here a couple of years ago that made it not safe for him to drive anymore. And I'll be honest with you, I miss watching him drive on Sundays. Tremendous talent. Had a lot of. I think he was the only driver for a long time that I thought had more talent than his brother. He was a guy that you kind of, I always said, you get blinders on him and he's just focusing on driving. He was just a driving machine.
Well, and I think it's worth mentioning on this Coca-Cola 600 Indy 500 weekend that he did the double and had issues in the Coke 600, but ran very well in the IndyCar.
He ran, I thought, exceptionally well in his IndyCar, and did it Well, I don't want to say it was effortlessly, but kind of like it was a sort of a natural thing to him. And again, I will say Kurt Busch had probably as much raw, natural talent for any type of race car that I've seen, maybe since Tim Richmond. And again, when Kurt Busch had it, when he like locked in and had his eyes set and focused and 100% whatever, there was nobody on the racetrack, and I mean nobody on the racetrack, that would actually outdrive him. Not Kyle Busch, not Tony Stewart, not Jeff Gordon, not Jimmy Johnson, anybody. He was a driving machine, and I think it's good that he's in the Hall of Fame, and I think it's kind of cool that he goes in with two drivers from a much different era. Actually, Ray Hendrick was a little bit different era than Harry Gant. He was a little older, a little earlier in time, and he came from a different state, different geographic area. But these guys, all three, deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And kind of, I'll be honest with you, Heather, it kind of, this week with those three being announced and knowing they're in, it kind of gave me more interest and more, I guess, acceptance of the whole Hall of Fame thing.
Yeah, so many times it feels like they don't get it right or maybe miss on someone. I felt like that the last couple of years with Harry, but I really feel like if I would have had a vote, those would have been probably the three guys I would have voted for. There were a couple on the Pioneer ballot with Ray that I could probably convince myself to vote for instead, but it just felt like from the modern era ballot with Harry and with Kurt that those were the two no-brainers on the list. This week, we were at North Wilkesboro. The Cup race, the All-Star race, unbelievable short track racing. That be that as it may, short track racing is not fixed, right? And also, there's been a lot of talk about North Wilkesboro getting a points race. Your thoughts based on one race there that was good?
Well, let me say, first of all, I'm glad for first all the people at North Wilkesboro that's involved with that speedway and has been since its reopening and its reconditioning and all that project. I was glad to see a good competitive hard race there and positive feedback. I was glad for the fans that showed up. They sold the place out, looked like it was packed, and the fans saw great competition, great racing. I was glad for all that. I was glad for everybody involved in it to finally see, because let's face it, they've taken a lot of heat because of that. There's been a lot of concern, and a lot of the Cup short track races have just not been very entertaining, to say the least. And this one was pretty entertaining. I don't really know, to be honest with you, Heather, I don't know what all made the difference. It really doesn't matter. I hope they can repeat the next short track races coming up when they go later in the year, coming back to Bristol. We've got another Martinsville. We got Richmond. Loudon is a short track. It's a 1 mile short track, but, they've got other places. And I hope there was some things learned that can make, hopefully, those races be much more competitive and entertaining. I think as far as the subject about Wilkesboro getting a points race, it's, first of all, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see that happen. I don't know what they'd have to move around or change or whatever, add or subtract or whatever to make it happen. I think you can make the argument that they kind of earned it. They're still working on everything. It was cool to me when we drove in, I believe Friday morning it was, we drove over there and got in, and within probably, I'm going to say within 4 or 5 miles of the racetrack, and just seeing the area, looking around, seeing, parking $10, everybody's house lots, the lots here, service stations, grocery stores, this place, that place, parking here, parking there, driving in, seeing flags and seeing all the stuff, memorabilia and everything. It makes me feel like I'm back in the 80s or back in the early 90s when Cup NASCAR racing, Cup racing, and NASCAR racing in general was the top thing. It was a top deal. It made me feel like, wow, we're back here again. So I think that would be a popular move with fans. I can't really say. I can't really say, make comment on like, okay, if the facility would support today's technology about.
Well, they don't have things like a live scoreboard. They still score that by hand. They don't have a video board. But hear me out on this because I want your thoughts. Do you think, because I don't really, the racing was amazing, but I don't think that short track racing is fixed. Do you think that the reason that this race was so entertaining is because the way that they qualified and the way things went down, everything was all mixed up, right? Teams that are not having great years, that were not great cars, were at the front. Brad Keselowski was on the pole. Some of the best cars, Kyle Larson because he didn't qualify in the heat race, Denny Hamlin because he had a poor heat race, were at the back, and there weren't that many cars because it's a much smaller field. So everybody felt a sense of urgency from the beginning, right? Brad Keselowski is fighting his butt off to stay up front. Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson are trying to move to the front and do it quickly before, on a short track, they get caught from behind by Brad Keselowski. I think that had more to do with and there were no points on the line. That had more to do with how much urgency there seemed to be in the racing than any improvement or any changes in the car itself. These guys were just a little bit more hungry based on how the field was shaken up.
Yeah, I disagree with that at all. I don't really know. As far as I know, to my knowledge level about it, there was really they didn't really do anything like physically to the cars or the tires or anything really quote different that would have affected the racing of what I don't think there was any rule changes or whatever that I'm aware of that made it, that would have said, okay, well, this made the cars less aerodynamic, or this gave the cars more grip or less grip, or this or that or the other. I think it's just, it's something about the format and the fact that the cars could pass. They could at least race side by side and make passes. I think part of what is the more races they have on that surface, on that track, I think the racing is probably going to get even a little better because the surface is going to keep getting a little bit wider and a little bit wider and a little bit wider. And pretty soon you're going to be able to run too wide around through there for 20 laps, and then somebody will sneak in there and make it 3 wide. And I think that is what produces good racing, interesting short track racing. Now, I agree. I don't think we can stand up and say, "Oh, short track racing fixes all. Everything's good in the world." The sky is blue, the flowers are pretty, the grass is green. All short track racing is going to be good from here out. No, we think we need to keep working on it and keep coming up with ideas about how to make short track racing better. I don't know that if Wilkesburg gets a points race, we'll just see how it works out. There again, your point about drivers having the sense of urgency and not having fear of taking risks. To say, oh gosh, if I crash and have a bad day, that's going to put me way back in the points. I don't know. It may be, it kind of brings started, it might be time to think about the point system and think about, like, I've always had a thought of, like, every driver in a what is it? We run 36 races, the long season we have. Maybe each team should have like one or two mulligans. Like, okay, we're gonna the two worst races we're not going to count, or something that gives the drivers at least a little bit of comfort in their mind to where, hey, if this don't turn out very well today, if I ended up crashing trying to take the lead or trying to lead laps, trying to get to the front or pass this guy that's in my way, then maybe this can be my mulligan for the year or my 1 or 2 or whatever. That's not going to kill me. I don't know. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one that's had that thought. I'd say they've had thousands of thoughts of how to do this or do that to make it a little bit better and to make the racing better. So, are there answers for all that? Probably so. Am I the guy to come up with those answers? I hope not. But it's like, you and I have been around this a long time, and a lot of other people have too, and we all, as participants, want to see the racing more entertaining. And that's because we're selfish about the sport we love, but that's not a bad thing. I think they just need working on it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not.
I think more horsepower at the short tracks. It may not fix everything now. It's not going to be like a magic powder, but I think it would put the drivers more back in it, and it would make their margin for error each lap, each corner a little smaller, especially as the tires wear out and the laps go on each set of tires. It's going to make the drivers be on their game a little more to stay up front or to keep them getting back, to go forward instead of backward. So I know that, and I know that's been talked a lot. Again, I'm not the first one with that idea.
No, NASCAR said that they're actually, thinking about considering that anyway. So this week you're already there, at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. 600 miles this race is. Changes from day to night. How challenging is this for a driver to physically and mentally stay focused for 600 miles, and then for the crews to stay caught up with the car for 600 miles?
Heather, it is, I'm not a driver, so I can't really tell you, but it is very taxing. It takes preparation, more than just showing up in the morning and saying, okay, I'm ready to race. It takes preparation for a few days, getting ready for your body to be physically ready to do this, and for your mind, your brain to be mentally ready. Your brain is a muscle too, so it's the thing. You think about simple things like, okay, just how tired do your eyes get in that amount of time? And you go from, again, like you said, from daytime to dusk to dark, and all the things that you look at. Also, like just listening for, being in that car for basically 4 hours tied up, and all the things, you got the helmet on, you got the seat belts on, you're strapped in there like a rat in the electric chair or something, and you're, it's hard. I mean, it's just hard on everything. Probably get a headache during that time. Your muscles and your joints, and you're, sitting in that seat and being squished in there and turning the wheel and working the pedals. It's just hard. It is very hard physically for the driver. So it takes guys that can prepare themselves for a few days thinking about it, and preparing their mind and preparing their body itself, different diet things, and trying to get rest and trying to hydrate and so on. Nowadays, I think that's pretty standard, the steps to take. I think everybody does a lot better job than like back in the 70s. Guys worked on their cars during all the week and maybe drink a little beer, at nights, and do this, that, and the other, and just showed up and ran 600 miles. And again, those were in the daytime races. So for the crews, though, And for a crew chief, it's a long day. I mean, it's a lot of time. It's an extra 100 miles from anything you do all year. It's about really it's probably at least minimum another 45 minutes or maybe hour longer than most all the races you run. So just to stay focused that long and to think about what you're doing and to think about, okay, what's going to happen in the next 20 laps, 30 laps, 40 laps, 50 laps, as far as, by this time you're into the night and temperature's cooling down, way down, and track changing, tire, tire grip and tire duration also changing. So you're thinking about, what do I do with air pressures? What's my car? What's my car going to do as far as the balance, and which end is going to stick better than the other? You're going to be running faster, so what's that going to do? I got to keep my driver with his head on. He's getting tired. He's getting time to. I want to get out of this thing. You got to keep him focused. You got to keep your pit crew focused, because they're out there too, and they're thinking, how many more pit stops are going to make? Even the spotter, think about that guy talking and talking and talking, and now he's going to talk another 100 miles more than any other race on the series. So it is grueling. It's like it'd be like running having a 20 round heavyweight fight instead of a 15. It's longer, and you just got to be prepared for it. It is possible to do. The thing of doing the Indy 500 or any other 500-mile race on the same day and then coming to do this, I'll be honest with you, that's beyond my imagination. I know I'm not tough enough to do it.
Well, it's why only a few people have tried it, let alone, I think the only person to complete all 1,100 miles was Tony Stewart. So,
correct. I think you're right about that. But it's just that's a big challenge, and I kind of understand why the guys that want to do it, actually why they want to do it, because it's something that not everybody can do, and very, very, very few people even get a chance to do it. So, everybody in their sport or their whatever they do for a living, they want to. Everybody, most people want to do something that's going to make them stand out, and I don't think that's arrogance or egotistical. I think it's just wanting to be the best you can and wanting to leave a mark in the area of what you do. And Kyle Larson's the guy now. I don't know who really will be next, but somebody will keep doing it. And I think it's something that draws people's interest, and people who are actually racing fans. They're going to love it because they see a guy out there trying to do something that not everybody can do. Very few people can do. Very few people get a chance to do.
you know who I'd like to see try it? I don't know if he's interested, but I'd love to see Christopher Bell try it.
Christopher Bell would be, a guy that I think could probably do that. I don't know if he's got any interest.
I don't know that he does, but I think that he's the only, Kyle Busch in his prime probably would be in this conversation, but I think he's the only guy in the garage area that has the kind of talent to drive multiple different types of cars that Kyle Larson has.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think it's going to take somebody that has adaptability to different things, obviously, to different types of race cars, and the different, how much do you turn the wheel? What do you do with throttle, acceleration, braking, shifting? How does the draft work? All these things. It's just a huge learning curve. And one guy, not just yet, but maybe down the road, that I think has tremendous raw talent, driving ability. Probably his actual physical size would be the biggest deterrent. Would be Carson Hocevar. Down the road.
I don't know if you can get Carson into an IndyCar. I don't think you can get Carson into an IndyCar. Another guy that's like a younger guy that might have that ability too, I think maybe is Connor Zilisch.
Connor Zilisch would be a next he's almost that's almost a natural thought.
Yeah.
Because he comes from a little bit different background anyway, and he's adapting to stock car racing very well. Obviously, he's got a great attitude. He's got great natural talent and car control. So he's young enough to where, okay, he could probably get the opportunity somewhere along the way to do this. And I think for race fans in general, I think it's a pretty cool deal. I think it's for something that interests a lot of people. They just watch it. They like cling to it and watch it. That's it's called sports entertainment. I mean, that's what we do. So anyway,
by the way, since we're talking about this crossover thing, how about Tony Stewart in the NHRA? He is leading the points in Top Fuel right now. He could be a champion in IndyCar, in USAC, in NASCAR, and in NHRA by the time the year's over. That's unbelievable.
Well, you go right back to just natural talent at driving a vehicle at a very fast speed, a lot of acceleration. And I always say, I remember talking about Kurt Busch I feel like because I listened to him when I was at Penske, I got to listen to him in some driver debrief meetings and him describe things that went on around him on the racetrack and would describe things about his competitors' cars and what this was doing and what that was doing. And I remember thinking to myself, how in the world does he know all this stuff out there running 180 or 200 mile an hour and half a dozen cars within arm's distance of him at all time? How does he devour all this stuff? How does he see it and understand it? And it's just a thing of for those type guys, when they're in a race car going, everything around them just slows down. And they're like it's almost like they're in a trance or something, but they see everything. They see, feel, hear, and grasp everything that goes on around them. And I think that Tony Stewart's like, the biggest thing for even a normal race car driver would be the speed and going from 0 to 300 miles an hour in like the time you take a bite out of an apple. And, for most of us, that would be, if I was tied in the thing and do one run, there would be nothing left of me. The only thing be left in the seat would be a shirt, or a pair of pants, and the rest of me probably be disintegrated. But it's natural to him, and I think he's adapted the mechanics of driving a drag racer, and he's also, his mind has just eaten up and grasped all the information about all the technology of it and what really makes those things go faster than the competitors. And he's got a huge interest in it. He likes it. He's having fun. It's hard, Heather. It's hard to tell what he'll do in it. I mean, he may win tons of races and championships, and who knows how long he'll drive them. And I say, in my opinion, for him, if he likes it, he's doing well, and he's having fun. And if it cures his competitive urge, that's the next thing. Is like race car drivers are like athletes, stick and ball athletes. They live off that competitive desire, wanting to say, I want to go out there and be better than other people trying to do the same thing I'm doing. I don't care whether it's driving a race car or kicking a soccer ball or shooting a basketball or whatever it is. That's your competitive desire. And, a lot of people they have to have that till the day they die. And I think Tony Stewart's very fortunate that he's found something that can feed all those appetites that's in his system. Plus, his wife does it too, and it's probably a pretty good family thing. So, he's pretty fortunate to be doing what he's doing, and he's having fun at it. So, let him have at it. Good for him.
Joining us now is Austin Dillon, driver of the infamous number 3 in the NASCAR Cup Series. Austin, thanks for joining us this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
I think we'll start with what's going on this week. Coke 600. You had a big fundraiser and you unveiled your paint scheme earlier this week for that race. Beautiful car. I know how important those military salute cars are to you. Just talk about that event, raising money for wounded veterans and unveiling that car.
Yeah, every year when we get close to the Coke 600, I've been very fortunate to do some very cool things for our veterans, for our military men and women. This week at the winery, we hosted an event for Helping Heroes where we raise a lot of money to build houses for those who have been wounded. They're wheelchair accessible or whatever wound that they might have occurred that help them in their home. So Johnny Morris has pledged to build 500 homes, and we're doing our part to try and help raise money for Helping Heroes. And on our race car, we have a really patriotic scheme with Winchester and Bass Pro for Memorial Day weekend. It's probably one of my favorite races of the year. It actually is, because we're right around home, and as my first win came from the Coke 600, so it's a special weekend.
I was going to say, you've won that race. It's a crazy, grueling race. I don't know that people really understand how difficult it is, because they just look at you and you're going in circles. It's not a road course. It's not a super speedway where you're tight packed. Like 600 miles on Charlotte is mentally and physically exhausting. Am I right?
Yes, for sure. 600 miles around any racetrack is a lot, and Charlotte is a high speed, rough track. So it's physically, mentally taxing race, and that's why it's one of the crown jewels of our sport, and so important to try and get your name etched in as a winner of it.
How do you approach the race? Because it starts in the daytime, it goes to the night, the cars change, the tracks change a lot. So how do you and your team, how do you approach this race?
You got to have a good balanced car that you can adjust on, because your car is not going to be perfect from start to end. It's going to go through lulls, and you got to do a good job of maintaining track position during that time frame, and then communicating to your guys what the track is doing, so you can keep up.
You yourself, the team at Richard Childress Racing, better season this year. You guys are improving, but it seems like, and I've talked to several teams that are kind of in your same situation. Yes, you're getting better, but the Childresses and the Penske's have such a, the Penske's and the Hendricks have such a chokehold on wins. Wins aren't hard to come by. So people may not notice, but you guys are running a lot better.
Yeah, we're running better. We've had streaks of top tens, and our cars are better. We barely missed the balance a couple races this year. So I feel like as we get into the summer months where our team tends to run well, I think you'll see some good runs out of us. And each week, Richard Boswell and I are working hard to take the next step for our team. But I do think good things are coming, and you can see it in spurts from our team. Just got to go to the right track and let it all line up and go to victory lane.
How excited are you for this run of tracks? Because you're right, the statistics show that Charlotte and Nashville and Michigan and some of these tracks that are coming up, Richmond a little later on in the summer, are all really good tracks for RCR and you specifically. So have you targeted this? Are there tracks you guys have got circled?
Yeah, we definitely need to pull another gear right now with this opportunity, the string of tracks that we have coming up. And I think we will. I really do. I feel like this weekend can be a game changer for us. We got to start scoring stage points. Stage points are key, and that's track position. You got to be running toward the front. You don't have to make up as much ground, and puts you in a better place throughout the race.
How much of that is qualifying? Do you guys need to improve on the qualifying?
Yeah, for sure. Every week, emphasis is put on qualifying, and we need to do a good job of delivering there when it comes to qualifying. So that starts on Saturday and hopefully carries to Sunday.
For my final thought today, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the IndyCar world with the controversy surrounding Penske Racing and their illegal part that they've apparently had for a long time. I'm not like super knowledgeable in IndyCar. I love IndyCar. IndyCar is my first love. I love the beauty of those cars. I love the speed. Raw speed is something that I really was first attracted to racing because of the speed. And so I really like that aspect of IndyCar. But I don't cover it. I don't know the ins and outs of the garage area as well as some of the other people that are out here that are talking about this. But I am fascinated by it because it just brings up kind of an interesting question of where the line is between competitor and sanctioning body, with this controversy happening with Penske Racing, and then of course Roger Penske owning IndyCar. There's a lot of questions about whether or not this stuff was allowed to slide because of who was doing it. I don't necessarily believe that's the case. Again, I'm not on the inside, so I don't really know, but the perception is there, right? And so when that perception is there, you have to take it on head on. 2 sacrificial lambs, including Tim Cindric, were made from Penske. They're no longer with the organization. That brings up a whole lot of interesting questions about what happens to Austin Cindric on the NASCAR side. I believe based on performance, Austin is fine, but is he comfortable being someplace that just fired his dad? I don't know. I guess we'll find out when the year's over what happens with that. But I don't think from a performance standpoint that Austin really has anything to worry about. I think that this is going to be really tough, particularly for Joseph Newgarden. He already has that cloud of cheater based on some of the things that happened last year with the push pass controversy clouding over him. Now he's got this. Full disclosure, Joseph is my favorite driver. He's from Tennessee. I just love to see, I picked him as my favorite driver when I was living in Wichita, when he was driving for Wichita-based Wink Hartman Racing, and then it became Hartman Fisher Racing. So full disclosure, I really like Joseph Newgarden. I think it's going to be tough for him. I think this is another hit to his reputation, which, there aren't very many American stars in IndyCar. So, I think I hope that he can overcome that, because I think the sport needs American stars to really be successful in America. But the biggest thing is that this is just all really disappointing. This went on for far too long. IndyCar took way too long to pick up on what was going on. Apparently, at least since the the Indy 500 from last year, this has been going on. You could see the pictures that the IndyCar journalist got of the winning car of Newgarden last year in the museum there, having this illegal part. It's not a performance-based part, it's an aesthetic-based part, but the idea of breaking the rules and cheating is breaking the rules and cheating. So it's going to be tough. I hope we get a good Indy 500 to kind of steer the storyline away from that this weekend. Kyle Larson making the double certainly is an interesting story. If Kyle can perform well in Indy, make it to Charlotte for the 600, run the whole 1,100 miles, I think that would do wonders to kind of take the heat off of the IndyCar series for what's going on. But I guess we'll just wait and see. Thanks for joining us on the Backstretch. We'll see you next week.